taxes. We got the gas tax, the art tax, the third highest state tax in the country, and Metro thinks you might just want to pay one more. Hey, listen, I get it. We told you PGE is controlling some people's thermostats.
We don't control the thermostats. That's a bit intrusive.
Right, not technically, but close enough. Either way, you have some questions, and we've got some answers. And, Oregon, I gotta say, looking mighty fine for 161. We're taking a dip into the KGW vault on our home state's special day.
1959 was the year of Oregon's 100th birthday celebration.
Here's the story. Look, I'm a romantic, everybody knows that. But let's face it, Valentine's Day is a made-up holiday, and it can be a toughie for people. Man, some people it's too expensive, some people it's a little bit sad. So maybe we should gather around something we can all relate to, right? It's Oregon's birthday. Happy birthday. We can all get behind that one, right? Welcome to the story. Howdy, I'm Dan Haggerty. Now, this is the story here where you are part of the show. All you need to do is talk to us. So use email or Instagram or Facebook. Follow us at The Story KGW. Use the hashtag HeyDan. Trust me, we're watching and we're waiting to hear from you. Whatever works, it's your world. So I've been in the TV business for quite a while now. I can tell you that we generally don't do a very good job talking about taxes. I mean, there's no explosions, there's no car chase. It can be a little boring. But look, we're going to give it a shot for you anyway, because Oregon's taxes are already pretty high. They're the third highest in the country after California and Hawaii. And Portland, we basically approve a new tax every year. So this year Metro said, that's enough, we're done, no new taxes. Just kidding, at least one more, and it's a biggie. And it's going to go toward homeless services, which regularly comes up as the #1 issue to people in Portland. Metro wants to raise $100 million to use toward wraparound services. Those are services that fix, more than one thing. So it's not directly to housing, it's not directly about food. This is more of a package deal. And here's who would pay. If we pass this new tax, people who make $125,000 a year or couples who make $250,000 together, they'd face a tax of 1% of their income. Now, this tax isn't approved yet. That would be up to you, the voters, to decide on the ballot. And I know Portlanders love to approve taxes, but pollsters found that this one might not be a sure thing.
Voters, if you ask them who should be paying taxes, they'll tell you it should be the wealthy that are paying them. And so this maybe taps into that value. On the other hand, Oregon has some of the highest income tax rates in the country. If you don't have a sales tax, so you got to pay for things one way or another. And so this would be adding on top of that high income tax rate, plus a new mechanism that's local.
And that brings us to our quote of the day from Metro President Lynn Peterson. She said, quote, "I can't sit here while people die in tents on the street." So Metro's pushing pretty hard for this new tax. They think it's best for Metro to tackle this homeless issue instead of individual cities because it's such a widespread problem. Now, I want you to keep in mind here while voting this May that this may not be the only time we're talking about taxes this year. In November could come up again, potentially a $250 million tax to expand preschool, $200 million to build new Portland schools, a $400 million tax to improve library services, and a transportation tax that could hit $4 billion. So Election Day is May 19th, so plenty of time to do some research and some math. Let's talk about our big story tonight, and it is a big story. So big, it's even tough, I think, to know where to start. So naturally, we should probably start at the beginning. In August of 2016, a 15-year-old girl named Fallon Smart was hit and killed by a car crossing Hawthorne Boulevard. Abdul Rahman Nora was arrested and charged with manslaughter. A year later, right before the trial, Nora vanished. Now, thanks to some intense digging by our friends over at the Oregonian, we learned that the Saudi government helped him escape justice. Then we learned that that actually wasn't the first time that something like that had happened. The Oregonian discovered several other examples of the Saudi government helping its citizens flee the U.S. when they faced criminal action. The Oregonian and reporter Shane Cavanaugh blew the lid off of this shocking story, and then this guy got interested.
Shane's work was very important. End of 2018, early 2019, he was able to get some Oregon law enforcement officials actually on the record saying that they believed that the Saudi government had helped their nationals get out of Oregon when they'd been charged with a crime. And so I began, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, digging into all of this. Not too long ago, a number of months ago, I found a document that I thought could really break this case open.
That was Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, of course. He worked to declassify this FBI memo. It's not very long. It's only about 7 pages. It's still heavily redacted. But the first paragraph reads kind of like a smoking gun, saying that the FBI almost certainly believes the Saudis are helping their nationals flee justice in the U.S., undermining our judicial process. It says the assessment was made with high confidence.
Almost 100% certainty that the Saudi government is helping those nationals get out of the country, and I think this really breaks the debate open.
Now, the debate involves more than what we're talking about here. It involves several extreme accusations against the Saudi government and its crown prince, from implications that they murdered Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi over critical articles, or that the crown prince himself hacked the phone of the paper's owner, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, in an attempt to have them drop their coverage.
Probably in a matter of days, I'm expected under another federal law that I wrote to have the Director of National Intelligence give me a public, unclassified report on who ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, who was complicit in it, and did anybody try to prevent it.
Senator Wyden clearly all over this. Shane Kavanaugh from the Oregonian, I talked to him recently. He wouldn't go into specifics, but said his coverage is far from over. But until the next bombshell drops, seriously, catch up on Shane Kavanaugh's incredible work at OregonLive.com and support some local journalism, because it is clearly making a difference. All right, I got another story for you, and this one involves Blackmail, a porn star's lawyer, and Portland's favorite shoe company. I have your attention yet? You might have seen the news today that Michael Avenatti was convicted and could go to prison for 20 years. I know what you're thinking. Why should I care? Listen, you already kind of know Michael Avenatti. He's a lawyer. He represented Stormy Daniels. You know, that guy. Now, this Nike thing has nothing to do with porn, the president, none of that. So how did we get here? Back in March of 2019, Avenatti met with the people at Nike. He claimed he heard they were bribing high school basketball players, trying to get them to pick Nike-sponsored colleges. But before Avenatti could blow the proverbial lid off this, Nike went to the FBI, and Avenatti was arrested. Now today, almost a year later, he was convicted and faces now up to 20 years in prison. But Dan, you're probably saying, what about the claims about Nike? I'm glad you asked. The Nike people deny doing anything wrong, and they say they are cooperating with the FBI's investigation into corruption in college basketball. And that's how we got here. In case you were wondering. Hey, if you're one of the 112 people who move to Oregon every day, you probably know, of course, I hope you know, of course, today's Valentine's Day. But you might not know that it's also Oregon's birthday. Today, the Oregon Historical Society celebrated the big 161. They had a birthday cake, all the party trimmings. They were partying down there. They even had a cameo by the Rose Bowl trophy. Hey, go Ducks, I like it. We thought Oregon's birthday would be a ripe trip down the KGW vault for you, and boy, were we right. We found a report that was filed by original KGW anchors Richard Ross and Ivan Smith from 1959 on Oregon's centennial, and we think you'll like it.
1959 was the year of Oregon's 100th birthday celebration, centered around a centennial exposition and international trade fair held on the 65-acre Multnomah County Exposition Center, formerly called the PI, Pacific International. Solemn ceremonies on June 10th, with governors, mayors, and diplomats from more than 24 foreign nations, scores of Hollywood stars, and a 100-gun salute opened the spectacle. 1,330,000 visitors in 100 days helped Oregon celebrate its 100th birthday.
A picturesque wagon train attracted nationwide attention as 7 covered wagons set out from Independence, Missouri on April 19th to retrace the old Oregon Trail to Independence, Oregon. Wagon master Tex Serpa led his band of 27 through wind, rain, and sun, some 2,200 miles across 5 states, reliving the arduous journey of the pioneers during the 1850s. The wagon train was greeted by massive crowds everywhere along the way.
Among the most enterprising communities celebrating the centennial were the people of the Tillamook area. They built a replica of the first sailing schooner built in Oregon in 1855 and named it Morning Star II. The new Morning Star, piloted by a veteran Norwegian skipper, Axel Andersen, sailed up the Columbia with a 12-man crew, bringing a cargo of Tillamook cheese and greetings from all the coastal communities to the Oregon Centennial.
I love that skipper's name, Axel Andersen. I love the vault. I know so many of you at home love the vault too. It's a big part of our show here. We like to look for reasons to go back in there and find some old archive videos. So if you have something that you think we should be investigating, looking into, seeing if we have, please let us know. Pick up your phone, send me a Facebook message, an email, anything. Use the hashtag #HeyDan. So about PGE controlling people's thermostats, a lot of you had a lot of questions after Pat's big power struggle story yesterday, so we figured we'd bring them back in and answer a few of them. And Soccer City, USA says goodbye to one of its favorite sons. When the story continues. Hey man, I can't tell you how happy I am that you guys ask us all the questions that you do, that you write in, that you use the hashtag #HeyDan. I couldn't believe it last night. You wrote us so frequently that the hashtag #HeyDan was trending on Twitter in Portland, right next to Valentine's Day. I mean, that's huge, so thank you. You know how else you can get a hold of us? A good old-fashioned phone call. We take those too. We actually got a call from someone this morning asking if Oregon lawmakers are thinking about freezing property taxes for homeowners when they turn 62. The answer is, kind of. There's a bill right now proposed that would do just that, but for 67-year-old homeowners, not 62-year-old. They aren't having any hearings right now scheduled for this bill. We've been checking, so it's a little too early to tell if it's going to go anywhere, but it would also amend the Oregon Constitution. Keep that in mind, meaning that voters would have to approve it, not just lawmakers. Last night, we showed you Pat Doris's latest story in his series, Power Struggle. It's all about how customers are letting PGE take control of their thermostat so that they can save energy when lots of people are using power. Now, you guys had a lot of questions about this. Some of you had questions about how this thing works. Other questions were curious about the nature of it and how it's being implemented. And some people just thought it might have been a little bit creepy that somebody like PGE could be controlling your thermostat from elsewhere outside of the house. A couple questions here. Cora writing in saying, my home has been part of this program through PGE, and we can't tell much of a difference in the days where they're adjusting the temperature. They say they've been saving a little bit of money. You've been hearing some of this?
Yes, we're hearing that from a lot of people, that really 2 degrees up or down is not that big a deal, and it does change the energy grid.
All right, let's talk about Sassy McSasspants here.
Nice.
Is the screen name. At least 15 years ago, relatives in another state were encouraged to do laundry in the late evenings overnight if possible. So a lot of adjustments that people can make.
Yep, I've heard of states like Arizona where it's more expensive to do it during that peak time, and so people shift to the evenings. We may be facing that here in the future.
This person wrote in a little curious about people who have disabilities or a reason they might need to adjust the temperature a little bit more often. Maybe if you have challenges like chronic illnesses. What are they saying about that?
Well, it's a good point. It's a voluntary system right now. You can adjust up or down on your own anytime you want.
All right, somebody's saying, what if someone hacks into the system? Everybody's worried about hacking nowadays.
Yeah. Well, the utility knows that, and they're not worried just about your home, which would be a problem. They're worried about the entire grid, so they're doing everything they can to defend it.
Samantha writing in, I think PGE's experiment is groundbreaking. They should make customers implement this. Also going on to say, Big Brother has been watching us for years now, so controlling our temp maybe is the least of our worries. I don't know that Samantha has a ton of people on her team by saying that, but you're hearing a little bit of it.
Yeah, I don't know about the Big Brother part, although people are a little bit concerned about that, but she's right. PGE is groundbreaking, and I think we're going to see a lot more utilities following step.
Pat, thank you so much. Appreciate it. If you want to see more about Pat's stories, Power Struggle, you can look at them right now on KGW's YouTube page. Check out the Power Struggle playlist. Pat, thank you. So Colin O'Brady, he isn't having the new Nat Geo article that basically more or less calls him a liar. This article dropped last week. It accuses O'Brady of exaggerating the story of his trek across Antarctica, which he wrote in his new book called The Impossible First. Things like the trip not being as dangerous as he made it sound, or he took a shorter route across the continent than he let on. So we got O'Brady's new response, and as you might expect, he says that Nat Geo got it all wrong. In fact, he's demanding a retraction. He included a bunch of links to emails, websites, and articles he claims backs up everything that he wrote in his book. Now, we're still waiting for O'Brady to talk to us in person. You might remember he was supposed to come in here and sit down with me the very same day last week that article dropped. He backed out, wanted to get his ducks in a row. We talked to his publicist again this week, who said that they're still checking on his schedule. We'll let you know. Let's talk about the weather story tonight, and we're going to talk about something you're probably not really thinking about right now, and that's wildfires. Why? It's the middle of winter, of course, but Oregon lawmakers are making it a priority for them this session. They formed a new Senate committee dedicated to wildfire reduction and recovery. Some of the bills that they're taking a look at right now protects and reduces wildfire risk, modernizes the forestry department, and puts wildfire protection plans into place for utility companies. We talked to Governor Kate Brown about this a few weeks ago on Straight Talk.
We are at the heart of a perfect storm right here in Oregon. Number one, you have decades of federal land mismanagement. And number two, you have changing climate. And that is leading to the devastating wildfires that we are seeing in Oregon. Now, last year we got a bye. Things were relatively quiet, but we are not likely to get another bye this time around.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino joining us now. And, so the governor said it right there. When you get a bye, people kind of have short memories. They forget how bad it was in 1718.
And it was bad. I mean, we had a lot of smoke in Portland. And when you look at the data, which I've done, you see a definite trend in wildfires, not only in Oregon, but all across the West. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have variability. There's still natural variability in the system. Wildfire in the West is largely dependent on two things. The first of which is lightning, where it happens, when it happens, how much of it we get. The other thing is temperatures, and temperatures have been going up. Our summers have been getting hotter. And if you look at this data from Climate Central, going back from 1970 to 2014, they graphed the number of large fires across the West, large meaning 1,000 acres or more. And you can see the trend is definitely upward. This only goes through 2014, but that left out the really big years of 2017 and 2018. So again, this is for the entire West. Now, what about Oregon? Well, I looked at that, and I looked at Oregon and Washington combined over the last 10 years, and this is what that looks like. We ended up seeing a lot of variability. Here's Oregon and Washington on the table here, and with the flames and everything. But you can see that we see a lot of variability with the numbers going up and down, and last year was low, but many of these years were 2-3 times even more bigger than what we saw in 2019. So again, the message here is we know the temperatures are going up. When we get lightning, our summers are getting longer. Not only that, wildfire season itself is getting longer. It's starting earlier. Remember, if it was last year or the year before, we had some wildfires in March. They were small, but still, we've never really seen that before. before. So fire season is starting earlier and it's ending later. The season is getting longer. Summers are getting hotter. And even though we had a really low year last year with wildfire, that's not likely to be the case in the years ahead. Dan, back to you.
Thank you. And of course, everybody at home, we will keep you up to date on what's happening in Salem. We also want to take a moment right now to honor someone who was really important to the sports world here in Oregon. Timbers legend Jimmy Conway. He died this morning at 73 after a battle with dementia. He played with the team in the 70s and 80s, and it's clear he made a big impact because he's one of only 5 players inducted into the Timbers Ring of Honor. He was also the very first head soccer coach at Oregon State and was known as the patriarch of the Oregon Youth Soccer Association. The Timbers shared this video about Conway from back in the day.
And I feel that we're going to have a battle, you know, to keep up with these teams. But we'll have a go. There's no doubt about that. There's no one here that's going to throw in the towel. You know, we'll be going on Wednesday against Chicago, and then we have Seattle on Saturday. And if we win them 2, we'll be back in nearly 500.
I can say Soccer City USA is going to miss you, Jimmy. So we couldn't quite decide whether this next story was keeping Portland weird or worth your time. So we decided,
¿Por qué no las dos?
When the story continues. Keeping Portland weird this week is the band that decided to have a coffee break in the middle of a set last night. This is Run River North. I want to say thanks to our director, Jay, who was at this show Wednesday night and snapped the photo. Jay is going to Wednesday night concerts. I feel like we are living totally different lives. If you see something weird in a very weird way in Portland, we want to know about it. Send it to us. Use the hashtag HeyDan or email us, Facebook us, Instagram us, anything. Pretend like we're your neediest friend, okay? We need this from you. We appreciate it. In fact, this is a good opportunity to share something that we think is worth your time. It's related to that band, Run River North. They actually came to the station to play a set for Tonight with Cassidy, but they didn't use the studio.
I've got my life to love, and I'm here to take what's mine. I've got my life to love, and I'm here to take what's mine. Growing up, child, it's just a matter of time. Forgiving all you've got, so won't you dance under the sun? Growing old feels like you're giving up your soul. I'd rather give it freely to the ones that I call home.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Nice little way to work ourselves into the weekend there. That's the roof, by the way, of the KGW station here. That whole video is up right now on the KGW YouTube channel. Tonight with Cassidy has a playlist there. We, The Story, have a playlist there too. Check it out. And while you're there, hit subscribe. Hey, it's time for another Friday mailbag, so get your phone out if you're not already holding it. Use the hashtag HeyDan. We want to hear from you. We're going to read your comments when we finish the story next. So we got some brand new The Story swag today. We were pretty excited about it. I went around and had a little bit of fun because I'm a child. And I patted everybody on the back saying, hey man, how you doing? Nice to see you today. And left the sticker on their back. There were like 20 people walking around today saying, hey, there's a sticker on your back. And then they turn around and say, there's one on yours too. So if you're a KGW employee and you're walking around tonight, double check. You might be promoting The Story. Hey, somebody got me. Come on. Hey, we're reading some comments right now. We're hearing from somebody saying, hey, great show tonight, full of energy, very interesting to see the news in a new way. I like how my favorite reporters and weatherman are on there too. We wouldn't leave them out. They're my favorites as well. Somebody saying, hey, I'm just impressed with the new format of The Story. We love that you're avoiding all the latest video and reporting and actually telling stories. I mean, that's really what we set out to do here, so I'm glad it's translating and that you're liking it. A couple of funny ones I like. This is from Jonathan. He said, you know what? I was skeptical of your future with KGW. You just seem like a dork. Yeah, okay, you seem to know me pretty well. I like your read. And then I think you found your niche. Although I wasn't a fan when you first started at 8, I've enjoyed many of your stories on the new show. I'm converting all of you. Thank you for another week of The Story. I appreciate you spending some time with us. Let's send it over to Laura Porter in KGW News at 6:30.